Welcome everyone, Costini here with a discussion about Total War Warhammer 3 Patch 4.2, the patch notes. Let's just say I've read these patch notes. Honestly, I'm not impressed. I was hoping that Creative Assembly would fix some of the underlying issues of Kislev, Cafe to a certain extent, though Cafe is ultimately the big winner in this as well, and also Kairos Fate Weaver. That's what I expected at the minimum with regards to 4.2, because you would expect that the races affected by Shadows of Change would become better. That's not what has happened. So, we get 4.2, Shadows of Change, and they spend the early part over here talking about the various changes that they've made for, like, the various units and heroes that they've added. Okay, fair enough. But let's ignore that and just let's move down here. So we'll start with some fixes that they've implemented. So they fixed Bloom. They've reduced the massive Bloom effect, as you can see here over here with High Elves and Tyrion, and the kind of changes that would exist with respect to Bloom. So yeah, making it less noticeable. More importantly, from my perspective, they have finally fixed, or they're looking to finally fix, the jagged corruption edges. So like, you can really have some blocky edges of corruption in the game as it is right now. So what they're doing right with this patch is they're fixing that, or fixing that in a very substantial way, which is really good. They're giving a shout out to modders who had already made some of the content they had, like Game Master, Lore of Hags, Catrin Sled, Changebringers, and Golden Knight. Then they have stability and performance fixes like screen space reflection fix, because yeah, we were getting visual flashing between frames and screen space reflection. That's been happening for quite a bit right now between the latest patch and this one, as well as other fixes as well, all well and good here. Then you have a couple of gameplay changes, like fixed landmark buildings or changes to landmark buildings. Like, for instance, if you can't trade, you're not going to get an increase to trade if you're playing such a faction. We've split the campaign border, rendering to several modes selectable in the campaign spacebar. Shows a large external border. Okay, interesting. So they're making some visual changes. They've updated construction costs for defense buildings that increase Skaven and Undercity's coverability so that they are consistent across all races. All well and good. With the Stankiat, they're making a nice change in the sense that you will no longer stockpile more than 10 incantations at the time. I mean, you're still going to be able to abuse it. Basically, you can go into battle, she'll stockpile them, and then she'll use it on all your units and all of hers, but no more than 10. When they say 10 incantations, I'm curious if it's 10 blessings, 10 curses individually or total. I guess we'll find out with respect to that. Fixed an exploit. Yep, that was absolutely an exploit you could use with the cast dwarves. It was kind of bizarre when you noticed it, but yes. I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but yeah, I mean, it's certainly, because it was not so easy to pull off, but it certainly could be pulled off. They are rebalancing Rampage, or reworking Rampage as a mechanic. They go into a whole explanation, but basically the way Rampage is, they've replaced it with two different abilities. One triggers at 75% HP, another at 25% HP, and it lasts for 40 seconds. So they've basically changed Rampage for all these units. And then they're updating the Lizardmen and combat. How about some campaign updates for the Lizardmen? Creative Assembly? That would be nice, wouldn't it? You know, some economic changes, construction time changes, you know, those kind of things. Or jungle movement ability. Just throwing some idea out there. No, we're going to change Rampage. They are adding Spawn King, so synergy between Skinks and Crossguard. So Skink units near Crossguard gain Fear. That's pretty solid. Crossguard units gain a small buff to weapons. So a Crossguard Skink army could work better here. So Tenowin, take note. For instance, not that Tenowin needed this. And now Predator Fire unit with the ability gains spell attack and speed whenever enemy unit that they have recently fought is routing. So Krokkar, Gorak, Nakai, etc., etc. Temple Guard gain cause fear and immune to psychology attributes, one next to a lord or hero, and its upgrade to Eternal Duty for the Star Chamber Guardian Regiment of Renown, offering Fear and Unbreakable instead. Okay, some buffs for Temple Guard, oh, right. So any Solar Engine now also gives Vigor regeneration, and then Elemental attribute works very much like the existing Demonic and Undead attributes, but they cannot be routed, but take damage when their leadership is broken. They have physical resistance, fear, and terror immunity, so Incarnate Elemental of Beast, Elemental Bear, Onyx Croman. Maybe Onyx Croman will be more useful with respect to this. Okay, and then you get constructs for Satang the Watcher, Terracotta Sentinels, Jade Lions, Jet Lions, Rogue, Itols. So basically, they've made Jade Lions, Jet Lions. I mean, it's kind of a buff. It has its own benefits, of course. In this, like, there's pros and cons, but like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, units that take damage when their leadership is broken as opposed to routing. Typically, with like infantry units, it's a downside, but like with these huge single entities, yeah, significant buff. And then they're giving us the Winged Lancers, the Winged Hussars. So Glorious Charge, basically you have, when charging into an enemy, charge bonus duration is doubled, and the unit takes a leadership penalty as if they have been attacked in the flank. This may give you a reason, if you're playing Kislev, to actually give a damn about Griffin Legion, Boris Ursus on horse. I mean, to be honest, you really should put Boris Ursus on a bear. But the Golden Knight, and of course, Cetra on the Chariot of the Gods. Because gives you a reason to use the Chariot, because right now there's very few reasons. So, maybe for multiplayer. Like, I always remember that I've been told by people in CA that they design things for the tournament players. Yeah, that's kind of feels like... In a campaign, you're probably going to still want Cetra on another mount, not the Chariot. But multiplayer, yeah, different discussion. So, Bestiladon's immune to flanking. Units with silence attribute are no longer okay. Revealed units with this attribute are permanently visible to the enemy regardless of line of sight. Alright, that's useful. And then some mount scale fixes and race and balance changes. Fix a number of technologies that modify diplomatic relations with all factions but not applied to Castor. So some fixes, some landmark changes. Fix the Lord of the Wild spell, Vile Tide and Traitor King, having the wrong cooldown. Couple of Beastman changes, but like when you're talking about a lot of these changes, they're just going to be stat changes for the sake of multiplayer balance in particular over here. So it's like Incarnate Elemental of Beasts has a multiplayer cost increase and various stat changes over here to make it more useful. Though, and leadership nerf. So you get Howl of the Great Beast over here. You get the bonus versus larger move, but you get the bonus versus infantry. So yeah, Malgor will no longer forget he has wings by climbing ladders and siege battles. Yeah, a bit weird with respect to that. So Mogur's Ardor of Fury, now okay. They did fix Bretonia's special settlements not having the good growth. Bretonia has one of the highest growths in the game, but these like Drakenhof, Corone, others like the Tylian Capital just didn't have it. Green Knight gets a physical resistance buff, still not an excellent choice necessarily in battle, and she, yeah, Prophetess Lords getting their Battle Warhorse at rank 5. As well as, again, a lot of changes in terms of multiplayer costs. No racial fixes, except a small dwarf nerf for Dwarf Ancestor Spirits. Yeah, they're pretty bloody strong, so they're getting a physical damage resistance nerf over there. Still pretty strong to use them. And then one of the more significant things I would say here is the fact that they're changing some things in the Caffeine technology tree. So they're giving us minus 20% recruit cost for peasants as opposed to minus 5% upkeep. They're giving us a Hero Lord recruit rank from 2 to 10. That is pretty damn powerful. Grace of Zhang Yang, so XP for characters have been added to technology and their speed. As expected... As I expected personally, like Yanbo is going to start with a Gate Master. We get a bunch of changes in terms of units or in terms of like their stats, various things over here. I wonder if they fixed the Sky Lantern animation bug in the campaign. Probably not. I'll be honest, like they don't necessarily mention it. But various changes over here. Nothing about harmony, nothing about economy, nothing about structures, just research and unit stats. Same with basically everything that is on this list. Which gets me into Kislev. Like, oh, we got Guardian's Call for cat removed ability Ice Shard Guardian's Call. Ice Witch Ice get Ice Shard. And yeah, all of them get Ice Shard if they're ice. Okay. But they lose Glacial Blast. Hag Witch, no more additional HP. Ammunition from 36 to so slight nerf. Ostanka is also getting a bit of a nerf. Yeah, I mean, she was pretty strong in battle, like ridiculously strong. Akshina Ambassador is getting a pretty damn big nerf over there. Calibration distance, so they're not going to be quite as absurd in that respect. Streltsy, or the regiment around Streltsy, bit of a buff in melee attack, bit of a very small nerf in melee defense, but yeah, more offensive oriented right there. Just a bunch of balance changes right here, right? Respect. An upkeep cost increase for... okay, we can't get a buff for Griffin Legion or Wing Lancers without getting screwed over in terms of upkeep. Thanks, Creative Assembly, really, thanks for that. Because what you will not notice over here is like, okay, Snow Leopard available at tier 2 animal den, fair enough. But what you won't notice here in any way, shape, or form is any kind of change to Kislev's incantation system, supporter system. You know, not every change, like, I'm not going to give a firm opinion on this until I play it, but, like, I'll be blunt, this looks like crap. Like, it's like, oh, we added all these units, so Shadows Change is now worth it. Kislev is still rubbish. Like, you can't, like, if you don't fix anything about Kislev from an economic standpoint, devotion standpoint, incantation standpoint, supporter standpoint, and if you don't fix Astankia's campaign dynamic where she always wants to go to Kislev, so you're always playing the same fucking campaign over and over again, and her economy is utter rubbish, then why the hell would anyone play it? Like, I don't want to give a firm opinion, but like, reading this, it's like, oh, they fix absolutely squat. They listen to a bunch of people, probably some certain content creators, probably certain people. It's like, oh, having new units is cool, or the DLC would totally be worth it if we had this many units, this many heroes and all that. No, Kislev is still bad. Like, consider this, Kislev is still bad. Cafe, yeah, good place. Like, if you want to play a Cafe, then buy this DLC. Like, if you really are a big fan of Cafe. I guess a couple of changes over here for Lizardmen, like Crockguard gaining a buff over here. But again, nothing in terms of like campaign changes over here. Like, just very, very minor things over here, mainly fixes. So yeah, just mainly things that are being fixed. It's like, yeah, a couple of many standard, like, what I would like to see from Creative Assembly, like all this effort that they put in multiplayer changes or cost changes for multiplayer, stat changes for units, I would like to see them put this effort for like structures or growth or control or casualty replenishment. And they're not doing squat. In fact, Kislev, who doesn't have the fucking money to afford a lot of armies, like, oh yeah, you get better Griffin Legion Wing Lancers, but you have even less reason to use them now because they cost more. I mean, it's not a massive cost increase, but still, point is, oh, Vampire Coast, any kind of fixes? No. But yeah, like you read over here, you read over here, like it's mostly, like when you see all of this, it's mostly fixes, campaign, just various fixes. No changes for Kairos whatsoever. No changes to Kairos' economy. Like, not even a mention, I might add. Like, I would like that. Like, oh, they fixed a scheme like you could infiltrate the settlement, but there were many schemes that were just flat out breaking when you were trying to do them. Did they fix that? Nope, nothing whatsoever on that subject. This is like pretty damn annoying when you're reading this and realizing, like, forget races not affected by Shadows of Change. I'm just making this point. I just wish to address this point that, yes, fixes are nice, don't get me wrong on that, but it's just like they did absolutely nothing for these three races to change their campaign dynamics, and that's exactly what they needed to do for Kislev, for Kairos. It's like, the problem I have with that is like this is maybe the only DLC we'll ever get for Kislev. Think on that. Maybe the only opportunity we had to actually get some really good fixes for Kislev, but they still remain the same crappy race that they've always been. Same with Kairos. Same crappy Legendary Lord. Nothing fucking changed on that. And yeah, Kebie gets some nice benefits. I feel like CA couldn't give a shit about Tzeentch or Kislev, but they just want to buff Kebie. Like, it's crazy to think like the biggest beneficiary of this DLC was the race that needed it the least. Like, maybe I understand how people felt about the Skaven in Warhammer 2 better, because like that was one of the complaints about Warhammer 2 DLC, that every DLC with Skaven felt like Skaven were always getting the better end of the stick. Now, to be fair, Twisted and Twilight, sure, exceptional DLC for the rework of the Wood Elves, undeniably so. Sister Twilight, great Legendary Lord, great value there for the Wood Elves. But that was kind of the exception. Every other DLC involving Skaven, yeah, the Skaven got the far better end of the stick. It kind of feels like this with Kebie. Like, if I'm looking at these patch notes, reading them, I'm going to be blunt in saying this. Do I want to play an Astanka campaign? Do I want to play a Changeling campaign? Do I want to play a Tzeentch or Kislev campaign anymore? No. My flat answer on that subject is absolutely not. I might want to play a Kebie campaign, but I'm kind of curious to see what the Gate Master is going to do before that. So we'll see with the Game Master, but yeah, with Kislev and Tzeentch, this patch is doing absolutely nothing for me. That's my perspective on this. Costin signing out. It's not surprising, to be clear. It's not surprising, especially when a lot of the people shouting online are complaining about like units and heroes and lords. Let me be clear, that is important. I agree fully with that. But it's like, there are other things that also matter, maybe significantly more than like, oh, you get another reskinned Beastman unit for Tzeentch. I would rather have Kairos actually have a good economy and the Changeling have fixed schemes in his campaign. And also a more interesting campaign dynamic. I would rather have campaign changes than all these stat changes for multiplayer. I would be far more interested in a construction cost, casualty replenishment change, hero capacity change, hero recruitment change for the Lizardmen as opposed to a freaking rampage change. But that's where I stand on that. Again, not a firm opinion. Some things likely are going to be in the patch that aren't mentioned here in these patch notes. But yeah, this is not encouraging at all. Costin signing out.